Hello everyone, my name is Dina Abdel Hafiz and I will be guiding you throughout this course. In our first video, we will discuss the participatory monitoring and evaluation system in nonprofit organizations. This video will provide us with an overview of the components of monitoring and evaluation system in the nonprofit organization and different ways to embed them in the culture of your organization. After watching this video, you will be able to describe and explain the component of monitoring and evaluation system to your team and also understand different tools for data collection and reporting for this data for your team, even if you are not a statistician. And then you can also identify the rules and responsibility for each one inside the team in order to engage in this process of monitoring and evaluation. And you will have a clear idea about the link between log framework and the systems of monitoring and evaluation. So, what is monitoring? Monitoring is basic daily managerial task undertaken by the team of the project, in which they are collecting information and doing a checklist for the progress of their project. So they are collecting the outputs for their project. So, by this, we can figure out if the project is on the right track or not. For example, you are conducting workshops. So, you would like to know how many participants are engaging in your workshops. Or you would like to know how many workshops that you have been conducting throughout the project. Or how much money this workshop cost you. So, there are different tools that can be used for monitoring. One of them is need assessment, which we are doing before the project, and log framework approach, which also we are doing before the project to indicate our key performance indicators. But then after the beginning of the project, you need to have a formula or a survey in order to figure out your outputs, or a checklist also can help you in this, in order to do direct observations for the outputs of your project. Then you are collecting data. How to use the collected data? This can help you actually to make a reliable data for descriptive reporting for your outputs. So the monitoring practices involve information for your observations and the data collected in order to make a comparison for your certain indicators, and this can be assigned at the beginning of the project, as we said in the previous example, in the log framework. So by this, you can manage the process of data information, and also you can have part in your project about what is happening inside the project. Is your indicators or your objectives are fulfilled or not yet? So why monitoring is an important process? Why all the donors are asking us for doing monitoring for our project? Actually, this process is really important to ensure the ultimate use of the available resources. Either these resources are financial or human resources, in order to reduce the emergence of unintended outcomes as soon as possible, in order to emphasize the adequate performance of your project. For example, if you are performing different workshops and then no one participated in these workshops, so you will figure out that there is a problem and you have to overcome quickly, because these workshops that you are paying money for the trainers to come, but there are no trainees are participating. So by this, you are keeping track for what's happening inside your project, and by this you can change your marketing plan or figure out what you can do in order to engage more people in these workshops. So why monitoring is important? Besides, it helps the project team to get an early feedback about the progress of their project, but also it helps the organization to prioritize the issues to investigate, provide a basis for the impact of their programs, and also assign the performance indicator within the program to measure progress towards their objectives. But also it helped to track the follow of the budget of the program to determine the extent of resources to reach their target, and ensure the implementation of the strategies and activities of the whole program inside the organization. To sum up, it is used to supervise the performance of the staff of the organization toward having efficient use of resources and effective implementation of the strategies and activities to identify the success or the failure of any project. Some projects are using MEAL, which is a system of monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning for the organization, and these can be part of the MEAL systems. Besides monitoring, we have also evaluation. Evaluation is a systematic assessment of an ongoing or completed project, program, or policy. We evaluate its design, implementation, and result. Evaluation is different from monitoring, as it is a continuous assessment based on systematic collection of data on specific indicator as well as relevant information. Evaluation measures the change in the behavior of the beneficiaries. So, what is the aim of the program evaluation? It helped the organization in identifying their faults so they could correct them in the future. Also, assess the progress of the staff of the NGO towards the objectives of externally funded programs and internal goals and missions. Assess the staff of the NGO to point out their weaknesses so they can turn them into strengths and make strategic changes in the future. Determine to what extent the program goals and objectives has been achieved, and attract and sustain future funding to the NGOs. Therefore, evaluation should provide information that is credible and useful, enabling the incorporation of lesson learning into the decision-making process of both donors and non-profit organization staff. We will learn more about this topic in details in the next videos. So what can be the evaluation tools? The evaluation might focus on assessing short, medium, or long-term result. When we have short and medium-term result, therefore we call it outcomes. But when we have long-term result, this is called impact evaluation. So the organizations are asked to conduct both long-term, short-term, medium, everything we can do in order to measure our outcomes, but also to measure our impact in the future. So the tools that are used by different organizations can be formal surveys. And this can be done by different tools like Google Form, for example, personal interviews, focus group discussions, direct observations, and collecting comments from the people from these direct observations, community group interviews, outcome evaluation, impact evaluation in the form of the big system. So, what are the steps we need to build M&E system inside the organization? We need to assign the objectives and indicators that we need to reach at the end of the process. But also, we need to understand our projects and programs and their clear objectives that has been assigned while writing this project in the log framework in order to understand the theory of change according to which these projects were built. And try to align our objective from the process of monitoring and evaluation with the mission and the vision of the organization. Then we need to create the plan with a clear budget for our process of monitoring and evaluation. Are we going to hire someone external to make the monitoring and evaluation system in the organization? Or we need to train our team in order to implement this process in each project inside the organization? So by having a clear plan with a budget, we will be able to assign the rules and responsibility for implementing the plan from the beginning of each project and the whole program inside the organization. Then we can make baseline reports. In these baseline reports, we can assign the system that we are going to work accordingly by understanding the status we have before the beginning of the project in order to compare it with the end of the project. And then we can have an evaluation plan that include all the projects and the program which meet the outcomes that we need to reach at the beginning of the evaluation plan. There are different approaches for monitoring and evaluation system. One of them is participatory approach. So, participatory monitoring and evaluation approach is helping the organization in order to involve all decision makers inside the process of monitoring and evaluation. These decision makers are mainly our internal and external stakeholders. By this, we can get insights about their opinion about the project that we are implementing, and accordingly we can build ownership, trustfully, accountability, and empowering these stakeholders in order to be transparent with us by sharing their information and exchange their knowledge that they know about the projects and also about the outputs and the outcomes for our projects. By this, we also building the capacity of our employees inside the organization because they learn to listen for other stakeholders, and by this they can learn to satisfy the needs of these stakeholders, but also they can learn more about how to develop their own project and how to be self-critic for themselves and for the project that they are doing. So, how PME is done? Participation is done through forming an evaluation team. This team will include program participants, which are our beneficiaries, and all level of staff members that are involved in the program that we are working on or in our project. And then we can design together the tool for evaluation, collecting data, and interpreting this data. So this can be done through stakeholder meeting, steering committee, and a focus group interviews. Conducting PME is a challenge. The first challenge for it is the preparation for the meeting. It will be really hard to find a time slot that matches with all the participants of the meeting, either your external and internal stakeholder or decision makers. Also, some decision makers will be against this process at all. So this will be hard to engage them inside the process. So to overcome that, you have really to collect the people in one place and to coordinate for the meeting with a well-prepared agenda. This agenda has to clarify the purpose of the meeting and the purpose of the evaluation process. Try to be a good facilitator for this meeting in order to not waste a lot of time. Try to build at the beginning the trust for the people for how important their engagement in the process will help in improving the process, but also build the feeling of ownership that their voice differs for the organization. Highlight the importance of this participation will help you make a successful participatory monitoring and evaluation process. So, what can be the steps of PME? First, you need to identify the stakeholders in order to invite them for the meeting. Then, create logic model in order to have an action plan with all the process that you are going through. Then, formulate the evaluation questions that you are going to collect data accordingly. And then, design the tool of collecting the data. But be sure that this tool is usable by the different stakeholders in order to make sure that all the people's voices are included. So if you are in a country that the technology is not something used by all the people, so it will be really hard to depend only on surveys by Google Form or any other tool in order to collect the data, and ignoring doing some participatory interviews to collect the people inside. So put in your consideration to make focus group discussions as well in order to involve all the voices inside your data collected. And then Try to analyze this data after cleaning it from any repetition or missing data in case you are collecting surveys. And then try to make judgment in the data and reflect on the data from what's happening and inside the project and the environment you are working on in order to disseminate this data all information in a form of infographics or